Appalachians, high above the Neva Grid. This is Awakening Radio, and I am your host, Joe Atkins, along with Mr. Tracy Rousey.
Back another week.
Yep, another week. Well, we took a hiatus last week. Technical difficulties.
Hopefully got them working.
From my internet provider is really bad. And I'm going to say who it is. It's Windstream. They're really bad. They bill me for service that I don't have. So anyway.
Maybe you can cut your bill in half.
Well, they took a big chunk of it off.
Well, customer service.
That's right. Give me free stuff.
That's always nice.
Oh, anyway. Well, we got all kinds of stuff lined up tonight, folks. We're going to talk about the government surveillance on the cell phones that come along this week and come part of last week. And we're going to talk some about the PRISM project. That's a scary one, Mr. Tracy.
Absolutely is. Absolutely is.
That one really makes me nervous.
That's the kind of stuff that makes me lose sleep at night.
Just gather information here and gather information there. I mean, I understand what they're trying to do, but, on everybody in the entire country,
Well, the thing is, it goes way beyond the cell phone thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this goes on, emails, stuff you look at on the internet, stuff you watch on TV. I did learn today, anybody out there that has an LED TV, when you turn that TV off, they can read the static electricity on the powered down LEDs, and it's just like a CCTV. They can look into your living room.
That's crazy.
I bet you didn't know that, did you?
No.
Yeah.
I knew that technology had to be around the corner, but yeah, man, that's creepy.
It's there. I spoke with a couple of our technicians earlier this week, and they were telling me about when these TVs, when they power down, the only thing that they're powering down is the LEDs. Everything else in that television, whether it's, even the first generation LED TVs, the LED backlit now, the new ones, it even gives whoever's watching you a better resolution. Your speakers are reversible, which act as microphones. So anything you say, anything you do, they can see it, they can hear it, provided you don't stick a blanket over top of your TV when you go to bed at night. So that stuff's out there. Everybody's got them in their homes. Everybody is aware of that. They can do that if they want to. Also, everybody later on, we'll be talking about the radio-controlled drones that have been commissioned to patrol inside of the country.
Protecting ourselves from ourselves.
Yeah, we are protecting ourselves from ourselves. FBI's got them. It went to a Congress Oversight Committee, and, of course, the FBI director was asked, is this true? He says, yes. How often do you use them? The director says, very seldom. Bullshit. Bullshit. I've heard things here and there that they've been seen flying all over the place. So they're here. They're probably here to stay. So everybody get used to seeing that. Got a couple of UFO stories later on. Well, I guess we can probably go ahead and start with the UFO stories if you want to.
Yeah, that's fine.
In Los Alamos, New Mexico.
Been there many times.
Yeah. A Los Alamos housewife said Thursday, well, today, she saw 2 jet planes chasing an unidentified object over this atomic city. The housewife, who said she did not wish to be identified, well, imagine that, said the object came from behind a cloud between 9:30 and 10 a.m. The jets apparently spotted it and gave chase. So,
there was more than just her that seen it, right? There was a couple of neighbors that also had seen the same thing.
Yeah, I said 2 neighbors also saw the object, which was bright and shiny and dome-shaped. About 3 weeks ago, another Los Alamos housewife claimed she saw 2 objects. Let's see, round and shiny as brand new pie plates, she said. And so, there's another couple of sightings. So anyway, that was interesting. Then it goes on to say, in a different story, now this is an Army officer had bought a new cell phone. Actually, it was an HTC One. Bought this new cell phone and was just kind of clicking around with it, trying to figure out how it was working, and started going through his pictures, and lo and behold, there was a picture of an UFO snapped over the ocean, and so he thought it was just maybe just a stock picture or something like that, and called the phone company to find out if there was any stock pictures of that sort that they put on that particular phone. They said no. He took it back to the shop, and they said, no, you took this picture. So interestingly enough, he snapped a picture of UFO and didn't know it.
Wow. That's pretty remarkable. I mean, does it say where this happened at?
Let's see here. On a beach in Canur. So apparently it's off the coast of Italy somewhere.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. That happens a lot. People are just out enjoying their day and take a picture and later on look at it and go, oh, what is that? And a lot of it's accidental. So that's pretty neat.
Interesting. Well, anyway, if anybody listened to Chad and Sarah's show previously, we've unfortunately had a death in the family this week. Mark Corbin from the Appalachian UFO Research Society has passed this week. So everybody keep him and his family in mind this week while they go through this hard time. And that's just a bad thing. End up going unexpectedly like that, and so.
See, unfortunately, it seems to be happening more and more. So.
Yeah, unfortunately. So, folks that are close knit. I mean, a lot of these investigation groups, all these guys are real super good friends. So.
It's a tight community. When you lose one, it's felt through the whole community.
It is. Sure is. And let's see, what else are we going on? West Virginia.
Yes. Happy 150th birthday. 150 years ago today, succeeded from Virginia and become its own state. Little piece of history for you.
Let's see here. I'm trying to figure out what else we got going on. Oh, yeah. Guess who else passed away this week?
one of my heroes. One of my heroes. Which is just, I mean, I'm devastated. I mean, Tony Soprano, man. He's gone.
James Gandolfini passed away in Rome, Italy. 51 years old. Had a good run, good show, loved it.
Excellent show. Oh, I watched every episode, man. I was hooked. So he definitely will be missed in my house. And and it goes beyond The Sopranos. I mean, he had some great movies. The Mexican was a great movie, but I mean, he's one of those guys that when you see him, you always think that's Tony Soprano right there.
Oh yeah, that South Jersey accent. Just always know. Anyway, all right. Well, let's get on to the good stuff.
With that, let's end on a good note. I'd like to wish my grandson a happy 10th birthday today, Mr. Josh. He's my little genius. He's got a outstanding IQ. It's amazing. He's not like talking to a 10-year-old. He's like talking to a grown-up. But yeah, that's my little buddy. And then my granddaughter, last Tuesday, had her 6th birthday. So happy birthday, guys.
Good deal. Good deal. All right. Well, what do we want to get at first here, bub?
Start from the top, man. That's all we can do. Got to start somewhere.
Well, apparently the Guardian revealed Wednesday that the National Security Agency has been secretly collecting phone records of millions of Verizon customers since April. A top secret. Court order directs the telecommunications companies to provide the agency with the information for a 3-month period, which expires July 19th.
So now, this is still going on.
It's still going on. Now, here's the thing about this. Now, shortly when we get done talking about this, I've got an audio clip. It kind of explains the rest of it in a little better detail. But it says under the order, Verizon must provide the phone numbers of both parties on a call, location data, unique identifiers, and the time and duration of the calls. And this applies to both within the United States and placed to an international number also. The actual content of the calls is not provided to the FBI under the order. So they don't, so they say, they don't know what the conversation consists of. But, well, here's the thing about that, though. What's the purpose of monitoring a phone call if you don't hear the conversation?
Oh, they're listening. I don't care what they're saying. They're not worried about the duration of your call. That I can promise you.
Yeah, or how many minutes you're using on your phone plan, or if you're roaming or not. I'm sure they don't care.
No. So there's definitely ulterior motives to that, and as it comes out more and more, I think, and I really don't know why that people are, especially people I've talked to here lately, have been really shocked about this. Mm-hmm. I just don't understand it. I mean, I don't know if I live outside of that box that most people live in, but it just amazes me of the people that are shocked that our government's been listening to our conversations. Now, in my mind, this has been going on a lot longer than what they're going to say it's been going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm with you. I mean, they're not worried about the duration or who you're calling.
Right.
It's just the government doesn't work that way.
Well, it goes on to say, it says the order is unusual for the fact that such phone monitoring orders typically granted by the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court are for a specific person suspected of illegal terrorist activity, rather than a blanket order made for collection of data on large numbers of users. It was sought under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978, which regulates national security and domestic surveillance. the ability to collect such data was extended by Section 215 of the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
A controversial bill passed after 9/11 that expanded the government's ability to monitor its own citizens. Verizon is prevented under Section 215 from discussing the existence of the request and the court order, and a spokesman declined to comment, and it's unknown whether any other cell phone companies are subject to the same order.
Well, you know they are.
Well, if they're not, I believe that they soon will be for some reason or other, maybe the same reason. I don't think that, I don't think the government just picked out Verizon just because.
No. And I really believe that the other cell phone companies are involved. Verizon was the one that was at the front. And the front one usually catches the brunt of whatever the controversy is. So there's no doubt that Verizon was the head of the snake. Now you just got to find out what is the rest of the snake.
Right. Well, the White House and the NSA and the Department of Justice, all three outfits, they also declined to comment prior to this prior to this.
Shocker.
And, of course, now the American Civil Liberties Union, they denounced the collection of Verizon phone records, but they said, this revelation reveals that the government has been intercepting or interpreting the law allowing surveillance. So, they're kicking on it. I don't like it myself. I don't know what you think, but I don't like it. I think that that's a thing that it shouldn't be done, personally.
No, not at all. Mm-hmm. It's bad all around.
I believe it.
There is no good that can come from this on the American people's end.
Right. I don't know. But I'll tell you what. If we've got our audio clip ready, it's only just a little over 3 minutes. Now this audio clip, it comes from the BBC. I trust the BBC more than I do the news over here. So,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Let's go ahead and get into that and see what they talk about.
Millions of Americans are reportedly having their phone records seized without their knowledge. The U.S. National Security Agency has allegedly secretly forced Verizon, one of the nation's biggest phone companies, to hand over all of its call data. Let's get some more details on it right now. RT's Tom Barton joining us live here in the studio. Tom, thanks for rushing in on this story. It certainly sounds like potentially sweeping surveillance here. What are the latest revelations you know about?
Yeah, well, this comes from the Britain's Guardian newspaper. In an exclusive, they report that the National Security Agency of the US is collecting millions of people's data from their phone calls, those with the company Verizon, one of the US's largest telecoms providers there. This order coming from a top-secret court, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, on April the 25th. And the data itself, telephony metadata. That's the numbers of both parties in a phone call, the location data of that call, also the time and duration of all those calls. The contents of the conversations are not included, but you can imagine how any authorities looking in at that could find out who is talking to who, where they are, when they call, and how long for. You can really zoom in and pinpoint someone from that kind of data. And this data is being given every day for around 3 months up until July the 19th.
This is unbelievable. You're talking about the U.S. National Security Agency using a secret court to secretly steal everybody's phone records from the biggest mobile network provider in the United States. I mean, one would only imagine that when it comes to the average American finding out about this, they're going to be appalled, horrified, and downright angry.
It could indeed be like that. Two US senators who have perhaps been hinting about this. It's not sure what precisely they were hinting about. They have said that when it comes to US citizens, if they find out about how the US has interpreted certain laws in terms of what data they can gather from phone calls, they would be stunned to find out the extent to which this is going on. It's not totally the first time. The Bush administration admitted large-scale collection of telephone data, and there was a huge furore over that. But this is really the first indication that the Obama administration may have continued those practices as well. And the real key point here, that this is mass-scale hoovering up of this information, regardless of whether people are suspected of criminal activity as well. And that's what could really create a big furore here, is that there has also been recently some other surveillance scandals involving the Obama administration. Last month, a Fox News reporter had his emails and phone calls monitored because the government was trying to find the source of a leaked story in the State Department. Fox, replying to that, called it downright chilling that they'd done that, doing what they considered the reporter just doing his job, really. And the week before that, the Justice Department was found to have monitored 20 different phone lines of the Associated Press news agency. Huge furore over that as well.
Yeah, you'd imagine that back in 2001, with the Patriot Act being implemented, there we had sweeping invasions of privacy, to many not surprising considering the terror attack. But now, 2013, what is going on? Artist Tom Barton, thank you.
Well, what do we think about all that?
It's pretty self-explanatory, but you know what? That's really saying something when the BBC, as much as those folks are monitored over there, are talking about the United States government monitoring us.
Right.
That says something to me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, times and trials, I mean, it's just getting, I don't know, it's getting to be now to where we're watched on every move that we make. We're watched. I even heard through the grapevine that they're watching ATM transactions. You've got these prepaid credit cards that you pick up at the drugstores now to kind of swerve that a little bit, But I've noticed now. Well, even when you sign up on those prepaid cards, you can't even use them unless you register it. When you got to go in there and put in a fake Social Security number, fake name, yada yada yada.
Well, I mean, I know, like around here, the big thing is having the Speedway cards or Kroger cards, and every time you swipe one of those, say just for instance, you go to the local grocery store and you have a card that you use that gives you, 5% off, 3% off, whatever it is, and you swipe that. Every time you swipe that card, they know what you bought. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't seem, hugely important right now, but if times get hard, they know what you buy on a regular basis. Right. They know how many times you go to the gas station in a week and how much gas you buy, or how much, a hot dog or a soda or whatever. It's just all part of the tracking system that they are putting into place in this country to monitor us.
Mm-hmm. Well, now back in 2006, now the Bush administration, they were doing secret surveillance programs, and they were not only were they collecting the phone information, they were collecting internet information, what web pages you went to.
Absolutely.
They collected your email records. For whatever reasons that they think that they have. I know that, Senator Ron Wyden from Oregon and Mark Udall of Colorado, they've been kicking on that ever since that it got started. And they're saying that it's a government secret interpretation Section 215. Of course, that goes back to the Section 215, where they could request the information without a warrant or anything like that. And but now they're saying this is the first evidence that the Obama administration is actually carrying out a program of that nature. And then, of course, you got the National Security Agency. They're talking tens of millions of Americans from this particular phone company. And, it was all under a top secret court order. I didn't know you could have a top secret court.
Well, apparently they can do whatever they want. How are you going to fight that? You just can't. And it doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever. I mean, you can't fight something that large. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you can raise a fuss and get a little TV time, but in the long run, how do you beat that? It's like fighting the IRS. You can't win.
No, you can't.
No matter how right you are and how wrong they are, you're not going to win just because it's your word against theirs. But unfortunately, their word carries a heavier lot of weight. They can squash you. They can run you into court until you're so broke you're living in a box, or they'll say you're a traitor or they discredit you somehow. It's you can't beat that.
Right. And you was talking about the IRS. You don't believe that? Ask the Tea Party member.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. And unfortunately, well, I don't want to say unfortunately, but you can't hide in this country anymore. There used to be little ways of getting around certain things, but you are tracked so much now that there is no hiding what you do on a daily basis.
Well, I mean, you take your new cars now. Of course, everybody knows about OnStar now. GPS, they know where you're at within 30 meters. You can turn the microphone off on your OnStar. They can turn it right back on. If they can unlock your doors, they can turn on your microphone. I mean, common sense will tell you that.
Like we were talking off the air right before the show. The phones that have the Siri, you've seen the commercials. Siri, I need, directions to blah blah blah. I was listening to a radio show the other day, and they were talking about this very topic, where you may even have your phone off, but somehow that mic stays on, and it picks up parts of your conversation. Right. That way, your phone that's in your pocket, turned off, becomes its own personality and knows your thinking, what you're asking, who you're talking with, what your conversation is about. So the next time you say, hey, Siri, give me whatever, it already knows what you're thinking and what you're going to say.
Right.
That creeps me out.
Unless you pull the battery out of it, it can actually do that.
Well, I'm telling you, they're probably going to make something here in the near future where even if you pull the battery out of it, it's not going to make a difference.
It'll have some kind of a long-lasting capacitor in it that won't shut it off or something.
Well, see, now you're talking over my head. You know how I am. I turn the switch on, the lights come on. That's all I know. But I do know that the government will be listening to it if they can. It doesn't matter.
Right. And I agree with that. Let's see. Hey, Chad, you with us?
Yes, sir.
So I know, I can actually feel it from my house. I know you're sitting there and that foot's just shaking, and I know for a fact you're wanting to jump all over it.
Yeah, to say the least, wanting to jump all over it would be an understatement. You guys are doing a fine job talking about this. You're hitting all the right points, and there's all kinds of things out there, fellas. For instance, the new Xbox One that's coming out.
Oh yes,
with
my daughter come and told me about that the other day. She said, "Dad,
I don't know anything about it. What's going on with that?"
The Xbox, the Kinect system, the new Xbox One has to have internet connection 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The Kinect stays on all the time. It's connected to the Xbox One all the time, and it's also powered up all the time. It can track up to 6 people at once, and they have designed this to be able to watch you, see what you're doing, see what you're eating, see what you're wearing, if it's a certain type of brand, if you're eating Snyder's potato chips versus something else, and then they will gear advertisements towards your IP address to match what you're doing in your house. Suggestions, for instance, if they see you, I don't know, covering up the blanket, they may send you a Snuggie commercial. You know what I mean?
Holy crap!
It's spyware and stuff gone completely overboard. I know that's not with the NSA, but still, it's an invasion of our privacy.
It's a part of that, and in the long run, that's going to play into effect somehow.
Oh yeah, it will. I mean, your Xbox is going to spy on you what kind of personal lubricant you're using and send you commercials for KY jelly.
Well, I hadn't thought of it that way, Joe, but since you mentioned it, you're exactly right.
Colorful commentary from Awakening Radio this evening,
isn't it? Colorful commentary coming from Joe.
Well,
that would be Joe.
I had to pick up the levity.
Yeah.
Good job, my friend.
Yeah, that is, man. But you're talking about the NSA. I can guarantee you, gentlemen, I will put down money on the table. I will put skin in the game that if Verizon was getting hit up by the NSA, that AT&T, that Sprint, that Nextel, they're all in bed with the government. Every single one of them are in bed with the government. They've been in bed with the government.
Absolutely.
They've been in bed with the government for a long, long, long time. So,
there's no doubt that the government has funded a lot of these little projects of, phone engineering. Yeah. And you know what happens when the government throws money towards something? They want a piece of it.
Oh yeah. That's why I tell everybody I get involved in local politics and arguing and putting gasoline on the fire, and they keep.
Yes, you do.
Yes, I do. And everybody keeps saying, let's put some new taxes. Let's tax our food higher. Let's put a food tax, or let's put a tax on motels, because that's out of town people that stay there, and let's stick it to them when they're in town. Well, they go, okay, we want to put a tax on our food. We get taxed enough as it frickin' is. I mean, if you look at the tax code, these taxes weren't in place 70 years ago. I mean, there's so many taxes now, it's mind-boggling. So, yeah, you're going to put a tax on food so they can, and they say, well, that'll let our community grow. Well, you see, I have a problem with that, because I'm all about let some people with money invest, let some entrepreneurs grow the community, offer them a tax break, offer some business. You know what I mean? I don't want to get into that, but that's basically what the government loves it when people come to them and say, we need help with this, because like you said, Tracy, they buy it out.
Oh, yeah, that's like if you look at, when the housing market was at its worst and the economy was at its worst, not that it's any better or much better now, the government was offering these people these ways out. You can't make your house payment. You're about to be foreclosed. We'll help you. But if you read the fine print on that, when they help you and you die,
they own
that house goes to the government.
Yeah.
It's not a free handout. They will own your house when you die. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't know that because we're such a sign-happy people and we don't want to take the time to read it all. But I got interested in that myself, and because when I heard it, I said, there's got to be something to this.
There's a catch somewhere.
And when I started reading into it, that's exactly what happens. The government will help you make your house payment, no doubt, and they'll keep you from foreclosing. But when you finally do get back on track, no matter what you do, when you're dead and gone, the government will own your house.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. It's like Medicaid. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Medicaid estate recovery thing that goes on, especially around here. Like if say God forbid, one of your relatives has terminal cancer and they have hospice or whoever come in and they can't pay for that out of their pocket. Well, if you're on Social Security or whatever, the government will pay for that under the stipulation when you do die, your house and property becomes property of the state. It's called Medicaid state recovery.
Yep, and that's in Kentucky. It's in Ohio. I had to deal with that about 5 years ago.
Yep, we did too.
I got tied up into that. Tracy, you got tied up into that with your family.
Yep.
And they'll just come out and they'll come and take it out from under you. And that's some of the stuff that you get into with the government. I mean, it's ridiculous what they do. And,
well, they
pay,
wrap it up. They wrap it up in cotton candy and make it look great and happy. But by the time you get done, eating all the cotton candy, you find out there's a rotten apple in the middle of it.
Oh, exactly. And the thing of it is, you pay. I mean, if you worked all your life and you've paid in your payroll tax, your Social Security tax, your federal income tax, your state income tax, and FIC and all that good stuff that comes out of your paycheck, and you've paid all that in for 30, 35 years of your working life, and then by the time you get ready to kick a bucket, they come in and take all your stuff.
Yeah. They don't care who's in the house. I mean, if you got young children, they don't care.
Nope.
Yeah, I tell you, you want to hear about not caring? You guys, I was shocked. When I first heard about NSA, when this first broke, I was like, well, surely to God, this is going to outrage the American citizens. This is the scandal of all scandals right here.
Yeah.
I mean,
people don't care.
I that's the truth. I know that 46% of the people care. 46% said this was an issue to them, and 49% said it was no issue. What's sad is that's a draw right down party lines,
right.
And you see that actually scares me because I did not jump on board with the Patriot Act with Bush, even though I was a Bush
Absolutely
supporter.
Not.
I did not jump on the Patriot Act. I did not like the fact that the NSA was doing surveillance on American citizens. I did not like it at all. So therefore, if someone would have asked me in that poll, I would have said absolutely I do not like it. It scares me, and it's a sign of the times that politically it's so split down the middle that one side absolutely refuses to believe that the powers that be would do anything to harm or against the American citizens. They're so blinded by their political ideologies that they can't see it. And maybe some people on the right are just as blinded. I don't know. But,
absolutely. I believe that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, but I think that for the most part, I would like to think that most people on the right side of things, I saw, Bush's approval ratings pretty low. So that meant that a lot of Republicans had to be disapproving of him when he was in office.
Sure.
You just don't see that now.
I'm with you. The Patriot Act scares me to death, and it freaks me out. I'm all for safety. I have no problem with making some changes and being safety, but at what cost of our freedoms do we say enough's enough? And I used to fly with the company I worked for previous. I used to fly every now and then, and I didn't really care a whole lot for, taking off the shoes, the belts, walking through the x-ray machine. But I tell you what I didn't like even more, and that's getting blowed up on a plane.
Yeah.
So, but we have to find a happy medium where, we still have the safety aspect and still keep our privacy.
Yeah.
Well, who was it that said if a person wants security over freedom, deserves neither?
That's Benjamin Franklin.
Yes, sir.
Ben Franklin.
Ben Franklin.
And you know what? I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really do. I mean, because, you got to have some sort of security there, but my goodness, it's overkill. They
At
don't
what
need to
cost?
look at
No.
Exactly. They don't need to look at every little thing that we do. They don't need to listen to everything we say, every place we go. It's almost getting to be it looks like it's the early stages of Nazi Germany.
It's not the early stages, Joe.
Well,
we've progressed a whole lot. If we looked, if people 20, 35 years ago in this country looked at, well, let's go back actually a little bit differently. Let's say we go back to, say, 1950, and we look at the way that society is now, we would see how much closer we are to that type of totalitarian state,
Yes.
that we are that we're in, because it's pretty freaking close, man. I mean, we got our cell phones now. Our freaking cell phones are tapped. So if they're tapping cell phones, they're tapping landlines. And if we already know that they're watching the internet. So really, is there anything that you can do? I mean, now the traffic cameras. I've heard that that's the next big scandal that's going to be coming up, because they upgraded all the traffic cameras and they put some ungodly character. The traffic cameras are nice. They can zoom a long ways. So can they angle those up and zoom toward apartments and toward motels?
I'm sure of it.
Right. So
if it can move, they can zoom it in on you.
Exactly. So the way I look at this, it's plain and simple, cut and dried. I don't want to get blowed up on an airplane either. I'm like Tracy, but I can live with a little bit of airport security because I'm choosing to fly on an airplane. That's a luxury. That's not an everyday thing. I do that maybe once a year, maybe every 2 years. But when my everyday normal activities are being intruded upon by the government, and I'm going to say something that's not going to be very popular. So go ahead and find me. I hope the FCC's listening. They don't listen into internet radio, thank God. But I'm going to say this.
The NSA's probably
the NSA probably does. Don't get mad at me, fellas. You can kick me off your show if you want. I'll still produce your show tonight. But let's face it. No offense toward anybody out there, but if you are a Middle Eastern born young man in the United States on a student visa, and you are going to fly on an international or national aircraft from one side of this country to the other, I'm sorry, if you're not a full-blown American citizen and you're here on a worker's visa, you shouldn't get the same constitutional rights as a citizen of the United States. And I'm all for a little profiling. Let's just be honest. I'm all for a little.
Absolutely. It's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. And this political correctness is why that's why every common American has got to have his phone tapped now, because they're actually more afraid that certain ethnic groups are going to say, well, you only listen to our phone calls. They're going to have to listen. What are they going to hear on a 65-year-old woman living in southern Mississippi, calling a grandkid in Nebraska? What are they going to hear on that phone call? What do they need to hear? They ain't going to hear nothing on that phone call.
Right, exactly.
Right.
But they're listening to her phone call.
Well, here's the thing of that, too, though. I mean, if you get a person of Middle Eastern descent that's not a resident of this country and was not born here and is here on a work or student visa, then he's not a citizen of this country, therefore does not fall under the rules of our Constitution. In my opinion.
I totally agree, but
the Constitution's out the window for you, bub.
Yeah. I
get
hear
up
you,
and get
man.
the wall. I got to check your prostate.
Yeah, well, I mean, with the racial profiling thing. Okay, if you look at Israel, okay, and I don't want to turn this into a religious thing, but they do that. They have to do that for their actual. I mean, they're at that point, and if you see, okay, just for instance, if you see a group of teenagers, 19, 18, years old, out standing on a street corner at 3 a.m, you automatically think, oh, they're up to no good. Let's check them out. If they aren't doing anything, then let them go about their business.
Yeah.
But, right. I mean, that's just a sign of the times, and the political correctness of this country is 90% of the reason why the country is in the shape it's in.
Oh, it definitely is. It's why it's going downhill. And, you know, Joe, I think you saw something I done the other day. We had a vote here in our hometown. Of whether it was going to be wet. And, to all the people that's listening, there's actually a county out there that don't serve beer. Can you believe that? But we voted it in.
Well, wait a minute. Now,
it
our
does
county
now.
is getting ready to serve beer.
That's
the
right,
next
baby.
county over still does not serve alcohol.
That's right. We've got it now. But the funny thing is I drove through town that evening, and there was a group of people out there protesting with "Vote No" signs. And
I've seen that when I came home.
Yeah, I took a picture and I posted it on Facebook on a group page, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, there was a lot of people there, but the only people holding signs were every bit of people that was anywhere from say 70 to probably 85 years old. No offense to old people again. So I posted and I said,
"Oh, they're kind of cute."
They are. They're cute and cuddly, and they got a lot of stories to tell that I like to listen to. And I posted, here's some Vote No supporters, average age 80 years old. Well, the hate people come out and attack me like a rabid pit bull.
Yes, they did.
And it was funny because I told them, I said, well, in context, as a member of the media, and when you describe a mob, if I called you guys and I said, where are you at right now? And you guys said, well, we just happen to be at Walmart in, in Moorhead, Kentucky. And I said, well, did you know that there is an angry mob of 50 people getting ready to descend upon Walmart in Moorhead and attack everything? Now, if I said there's an angry mob of 80-year-olds that's going to attack Walmart, that would have a much different meaning than if I said there's a mob of 30-year-old men that's going to attack Walmart. That would get you going a little bit more.
Right.
Okay. So, it's not racial profiling as much as it is just calling an apple an apple.
Stating the fact.
Stating a daggone fact, man.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not been a 65-year-old woman in southern Mississippi blow up a plane yet. Let's just call it. Not yet.
Yeah.
So until those odds switch, I think we need to start playing the percentages. But that's just me.
Well, everybody, keep that in mind. We're going to take a short break just here, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about the Prism Project, and we're also going to hear, I think it's a 13, 14-minute clip of Edward Snowden, his interview, which that was the whistleblower. I don't know if anybody knows anything about that, but he's the whistleblower, and was told everybody about the Prism Project and the NSA with information gathering. So, everybody, sit back, chew on the information that we've gave you so far, and get ready. We're going to hit it again just here in a few minutes, so stay tuned.
Awakening Radio with Joe and Tracy will return after the government is done questioning. Joe and Tracy have been cleared to return. We now take you back to Awakening Radio.
Well, everybody, welcome back to Awakening Radio. This is Joe Atkins with my partner in crime, Mr. Tracy Rousey, and for our cameo guest appearance of our producer, Chad McKenzie from Paranormally Correct.
Hello, mate.
Oh, I like that British accent. Very nice. Makes me think of Mr. Bean for some reason.
Would rather me be Australian.
Now it's Crocodile Dundee, man. You got to stop.
I never will forget that the movie that Mr. Bean was in when he was flowing like water out of that church pew. I don't know if you've ever seen that or not.
Oh, where he was falling asleep?
Yeah.
Yeah, the good one. Good one. I love the Christmas one where the turkey ends up on his head. That's pretty good.
That was awesome. Everybody, Remember, we've got a call-in line, so if y'all want to call in, more than welcome to. We encourage everybody that can and wants to call in. Give us some criticism, critiques, some stories,
Comments.
whatever you want to, comments. Our number is 919-295-0150. You can get us on Skype at Paramania Radio, gtalk at paramaniaradio@gmail.com. And everybody, please go to the Awakening Radio Facebook page and hit that like button over and over and over and over again. We want all kinds of likes and fans on our Facebook page. So it's Awakening Radio on Facebook. Don't forget to do that. So I've done my shameless plugs for tonight.
Did them well too.
I think I did. I'm getting better at it. But anyway, let's get on to the next thing here. Now, this thing's come out here. It's not been out for very long, but there's a project out there the government's got going on again. It's called the PRISM Project, and pretty much what it consists of is we talked earlier about the government seizing all these telephone records, right? So now they're going and they're looking at emails, whether it be private email or whatever the case may be.
Right.
They're looking at emails. They're looking at what web page you go to and how long you stay on that web page. They're looking at, they're looking at all kinds of stuff. They call it a mega data collection. It's just a mass data collection from everybody in this country. Now, folks, if you don't know about this, you guys need to open your eyes and don't be a bunch of sheep. This stuff's going on. They're watching every move you make. Now, why they're watching, who knows? It don't really matter. They're watching. So, anyway, I'm gonna read this right here to you, and just let me know what you think about it. In the months and early years after 9/11, FBI agents began showing up at the ERG. Now, around the world, government spies, eavesdroppers were tracking email and internet addresses used by suspected terrorists, and often those trails led to the world's largest software company, and at the time, the largest email provider. Now, who was that? Microsoft Corporation. They went to Microsoft and said, hey, we want to start listening and looking at everybody. And Microsoft said, oh, well, by all means, and opened up the gates and let them come on in. The FBI agents, they wanted email archives, account information. Now, when I say account information, I'm talking usernames, passwords, social security numbers, name, date of birth, whatever information that you put in to start your email account, that's what they got.
Yep, they can see it.
They got it, and they've already got it. There is a massive $2 billion, billion with a B, a massive data storage complex out in Utah, and that's their whole purpose in this world is to collect this information. As again, why they're wanting it, they say terrorism. Who knows, but they wanted all this stuff quick, and the engineers at Microsoft, they got all this data together and hand-delivered it to the government, and they actually admitted it. Now, during all this stuff, nobody knew anybody, the general public, they didn't know anything about all this stuff. And it goes on to say, often there was no easy way to tell if the information belonged to foreigners or Americans. So much data was changing hands that one former Microsoft employee recalls that the engineers were anxious about whether the company should cooperate or not. And the folks inside Microsoft, they called it hoovering, but it wasn't called hoovering after the vacuum cleaner, but after J. Edgar Hoover, the first FBI director, and he gathered dirt on everybody. So if anybody knows anything about their U.S. history books, even our overseas listeners, if you know anything about U.S. history, you'll know that J. Edgar Hoover not only wore women's underwear, but he gathered dirt on everybody.
Former presidents, everybody.
For leverage purposes, to further his career, or whatever the case may be. Now, we've got a interview from Edward Snowden. He was a former employee of the NSA. Well, he was a contractor for the NSA, and if I'm not mistaken, he was an IT engineer, and he took it public. So it's a little short 13-minute interview with him, and that he goes in to tell basically what he did and all that good stuff. So if our producer has it ready, we'll go ahead and get that underway and let you guys hear it, and then we'll come back and discuss it.
My name's Ed Snowden. I'm 29 years old. I work for Booz Allen Hamilton as an infrastructure analyst for NSA in Hawaii.
What are some of the positions that you held previously within the intelligence community?
I've been a systems engineer, systems administrator, senior advisor for the Central Intelligence Agency, solutions consultant, and a telecommunications information systems officer.
One of the things people are going to be most interested in trying to understand who you are and what you're thinking is there came some point in time when you crossed this line of thinking about being a whistleblower to making the choice to actually become a whistleblower. Walk people through that decision-making process.
When you're in positions of privileged access, like a systems administrator for these sort of intelligence community agencies, you're exposed to a lot more information on a broader scale than the average employee. And because of that, you see things that may be disturbing, but over the course of a normal person's career, you'd only see one or two of these instances. When you see everything, you see them on a more frequent basis. And you recognize that some of these things are actually abuses. And when you talk to people about them, in a place like this where this is the normal state of business, people tend not to take them very seriously and move on from them. But over time, that awareness of wrongdoing sort of builds up, and you feel compelled to talk about it. And the more you talk about it, the more you're ignored, the more you're told it's not a problem, until eventually you realize that these things need to be determined by the public, not by somebody who was simply hired by the government.
Talk a little bit about how the American surveillance state actually functions. Does it target the actions of Americans?
NSA and the intelligence community in general is focused on getting intelligence wherever it can, by any means possible, that it believes on the grounds of sort of a self-certification that they serve the national interest. Originally, we saw that focus very narrowly tailored as foreign intelligence gathered overseas. Now, increasingly, we see that it's happening domestically. And to do that, the NSA specifically targets the communications of everyone. It ingests them by default. It collects them in its system, and it filters them, and it analyzes them, and it measures them, and it stores them for periods of time, simply because that's the easiest, most efficient, and most valuable way to achieve these ends. So while they may be intending to target someone associated with a foreign government or someone that they suspect of terrorism, they're collecting your communications to do so. Any analyst at any time can target anyone, any selector, anywhere. Where those communications will be picked up depends on the range of the sensor networks and the authorities that that analyst is empowered with. Not all analysts have the ability to target everything. But I, sitting at my desk, certainly had the authorities to wiretap anyone, from you or your accountant to a federal judge to even the president if I had a personal email.
One of the extraordinary parts about this episode is that usually whistleblowers do what they do anonymously and take steps to remain anonymous for as long as they can, which they hope often is forever. You, on the other hand, have decided to do the opposite, which is to declare yourself openly as the person behind these disclosures. Why did you choose to do that?
I think that the public is owed an explanation of the motivations behind the people who make these disclosures that are outside of the democratic model. When you are subverting the power of government, that's a fundamentally dangerous thing to democracy. And if you do that in secret consistently, as the government does when it wants to benefit from a secret action that it took, it'll kind of give its officials a mandate to go, hey, tell the press about this thing and that thing, so the public is on our side. But they rarely, if ever, do that when an abuse occurs. That falls to individual citizens, but they're typically maligned. It becomes a thing of these people are against the country, they're against the government. But I'm not. I'm no different from anybody else. I don't have special skills. I'm just another guy who sits there day to day in the office, watches what's happening, and goes, this is something that's not our place to decide. The public needs to decide whether these programs and policies are right or wrong. And I'm willing to go on the record to defend the authenticity of them and say, I didn't change these. I didn't modify the story. This is the truth. This is what's happening. You should decide whether we need to be doing this.
Have you given thought to what it is that the U.S. government's response to your conduct is in terms of what they might say about you, how they might try to depict you, what they might try to do to you?
I could be, rendered by the CIA. I could have people come after me, or any of their third-party partners. They work closely with a number of other nations. Or they could pay off the triads, or any of their agents or assets. We've got a CIA station just up the road in the consulate here in Hong Kong, and I'm sure they're going to be very busy for the next week. And that's a fear I'll live under for the rest of my life, however long that happens to be. You can't come forward against the world's most powerful intelligence agencies and be completely free from risk, because they're such powerful adversaries that no one can meaningfully oppose them. If they want to get you, they'll get you in time. But at the same time, you have to make a determination about what it is that's important to you. And if living unfreely but comfortably is something you're willing to accept, and I think many of us are, it's the human nature. You can get up every day, you can go to work, you can collect your large paycheck for relatively little work against the public interest, and go to sleep at night after watching your shows. But if you realize that that's the world that you helped create, and it's going to get worse with the next generation and the next generation who extend the capabilities of this sort of architecture of oppression, you realize that you might be willing to accept any risk. And it doesn't matter what the outcome is, so long as the public gets to make their own decisions about how that's applied.
Why should people care about surveillance?
Because even if you're not doing anything wrong, you're being watched and recorded. And the storage capability of these systems increases every year consistently by orders of magnitude, to where it's getting to the point you don't have to have done anything wrong. You simply have to eventually fall under suspicion from somebody, even by a wrong call. And then they can use the system to go back in time and scrutinize every decision you've ever made, every friend you've ever discussed something with, and attack you on that basis to sort of derive suspicion from an innocent life and paint anyone in the context of a wrongdoer.
We are currently sitting in a room in Hong Kong, which is where we are because you traveled here. Talk a little bit about why it is that you came here, and specifically there are going to be people who will speculate that what you really intend to do is to defect to the country that many see as the number one rival of the United States, which is China, and that what you're really doing is essentially seeking to aid an enemy of the United States with which you intend to seek asylum. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So there's a couple assertions in those arguments that are sort of embedded in the questioning of the choice of Hong Kong. The first is that China is an enemy of the United States. It's not. I mean, there are conflicts between the United States government and the Chinese PRC government, but the peoples inherently, we don't care. We trade with each other freely. We're not at war. We're not in armed conflict, and we're not trying to be. We're the largest trading partners out there for each other. Additionally, Hong Kong has a strong tradition of free speech. People think, oh, China, great firewall. Mainland China does have significant restrictions on free speech, but the people of Hong Kong have a long tradition of protesting in the streets, of making their views known. The internet is not filtered here, no more so than any other Western government. And I believe that the Hong Kong government is actually independent in relation to a lot of other leading Western governments.
If your motive had been to harm the United States and help its enemies, or if your motive had been personal material gain, were there things that you could have done with these documents to advance those goals that you didn't end up doing?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anybody in the positions of access with the technical capabilities that I had could, suck out secrets, pass them on the open market to Russia. They always have an open door, as we do. I had access to, the full rosters of everyone working at the NSA, the entire intelligence community, and undercover assets all around the world, the locations of every station we have, what their missions are, and so forth. If I had just wanted to harm the U.S., that you could shut down the surveillance system in an afternoon. But that's not my intention. And I think for anyone making that argument, they need to think, if they were in my position, and you live a privileged life, you're living in Hawaii in paradise and making a ton of money, what would it take to make you leave everything behind? The greatest fear that I have regarding the outcome for America of these disclosures is that nothing will change. People will see in the media all of these disclosures. They'll know the lengths that the government is going to grant themselves powers unilaterally to create greater control over American society and global society. But they won't be willing to take the risks necessarily to stand up and fight to change things, to force their representatives to actually take a stand in their interests. And the months ahead, the years ahead, it's only going to get worse until eventually there will be a time where policies will change, because the only thing that restricts the activities of the surveillance state are policy. Even our agreements with other sovereign governments, we consider that to be a stipulation of policy rather than a stipulation of law. And because of that, a new leader will be elected. They'll flip the switch, say that because of the crisis, because of the dangers that we face in the world, some new and unpredicted threat, we need more authority, we need more power, and there will be nothing the people can do at that point to oppose it, and it'll be turnkey tyranny.
All right, everybody. Well, played that little bit of audio with that. Now, here's the thing. Now, what do you guys think? Do you all think that, is he a traitor for doing what he did, or is he a patriot? That's what I want to know. What do you think about it, Trace?
I got mixed feelings, man. Everybody should know something. I don't fault him for coming out with this, but the government, of course, they're going to, make him out to be some kind of tyrant. As last I heard, I think he exiled to China. I really have mixed emotions about this, because I don't really want to say it's a traitorous act, because he's not really leaking anything out that is security-wise, to other countries. He's just basically letting, the American people say, hey, take this seriously. you're being watched, and here's the proof.
Right. Chad, what do you think?
I don't. My definition of a traitor would be someone who took, privy information and gave it to a someone of a different corporation or a different country, a different interest. I don't think this guy is a traitor, but I wouldn't believe half of what the government is releasing on him, saying he's this and he's that, because they're running a smear campaign to discredit this guy, because they don't want what he's got to say to fall upon, intrigued ears. They want it to fall upon people who's going to, oh, that's that crazy traitor guy that the government's chasing. That's what they want them to think.
Yeah,
that's the first thing that they need to do. Discredit your, get rid of your credibility, make you out to be a liar, and then release all that so nobody will believe you, even no matter what you say, no matter how much proof you've got. Then, if you're discredited, they're just going to, blow you over.
Well, this it goes back to people who don't really do their homework, and they get the 2-minute snippet on CNN, and of course you know how they're going to tout it, and they're going to say, well, this guy's whatever, in his past he's done this, now he's at China and he's fighting to come, don't want to come back, and they're going to make him out to be a villain. And, you got half or over half of the American public who get their news from these little 2-minute snippets like that, and they believe every word, and, they don't really look into it themselves and say, you know what, hey, this guy really wasn't wrong.
Well, yeah, they're going to get their news from the drive-by media. And the drive-by media, as we found out lately, the Associated Press is also, being watched by the government. And actually, you know what? I think we can say, I'll go back on that one. It's not being watched by the government. The Associated Press was being watched by the White House.
Specifically, yes.
Specifically the White House. And look what's going on with the, we didn't even, maybe we can talk a little bit about the IRS when you guys get back from break.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because look what they're doing,
Speaking of break, we are at break time, guys.
Hey, and Joe, real quick, before you go on break, I wanted to say that the song I got to play here is it's Nirvana's cover of a David Bowie song, "The Man Who Sold the World." This was Mark Corbin's favorite song, and
awesome. By all means.
Junebug in the chat room there asked me to play it, so we are going to play this song and for Mark.
Awesome,
all right, guys. Stay tuned. We'll be back shortly.
Awakening Radio with Joe and Tracy will return after the government is done questioning. Joe and Tracy have been cleared to return. We now take you back to Awakening Radio.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Awakening Radio. We made it through another break, and we're back again. Everybody, remember, if you want to call in, please give us a call, 919-295-0150, and Skype at Paramania Radio, Gtalk at Paramania Radio, gmail.com, and go to our Facebook page, Awakening Radio at the Facebook page. So, hit that like button 100 times. We need it. All right, so we was talking about, let's see, what was we talking about? Well, we was talking about the NSA and Project Prism. Yes. They're gathering all of our information, and that's not a good thing. We don't want
that. No.
They have no business with that information. Microsoft didn't have any business jumping in bed with them. And, I don't think Verizon had a choice on that telephone deal. I don't think they had much of a choice, but I think I would have kicked a little bit. But I don't know. Maybe Verizon is run by communists. You never know. I have no idea. I don't.
That's putting it one way, I guess.
Well, I mean, I don't know that. It was just a thought.
Well, does it not scare anybody else that large corporations in our country will go to bed with the government like that, that quick without saying, no, wait a minute, we don't like the looks of this. We're afraid it might hurt our public relations down the road if we do this. Maybe we should, maybe you should take this to court and get a warrant or get federal approval or see what the country thinks about it.
Well, it's not, I don't want to downplay it, but it's not so much the fact that they're doing it. It's the sneakiness of the way that they're doing it. It's why don't they come out and say, okay, this is what we're doing? If this is for security reasons and we want to deter terrorist acts in this country, why don't they let everybody know this is what we're doing? If you try to do anything, we are watching you. But they don't go that route. It's a sneaky, under the carpet kind of thing, and then when it comes out, it's like, whoa, what do you mean?
Yeah, it's also it's a very probably the thing that pissed me off the most. Sorry, I didn't play the disclaimer. Probably the thing that made me so angry.
All right, wait a minute. All right, this is our disclaimer. There may be a few naughty words.
The views of Awakening Radio may not reflect it.
Yeah, may not necessarily reflect the views of Paramania Radio Network. In the event that you are perturbed
Under
or
18.
angry, send messages to Joe.
That'd be
at
Chad at Paranormally Correct.
But there you go. What I was saying was, it always sounds like I'm complaining about our, I don't know what you call him. I guess we have to call him the president, but the smugness at which this whole situation was handled, when it broke, the smugness is, well, I'm doing this, we do this to keep you safe, and that should just be all the explanation you need. That should be it. And that just burns me up because there is still a portion of this country of people that still believe in civil liberties.
Sure.
And we still believe in personal rights.
Absolutely.
And, I would fight right now. I would sign up and I would fight to the death for the Constitution and for this country. But I would not sign up and fight to the death for a country that's going to lie and do backhanded, cheating, backstabbing bullcrap like's been going on right now.
Sure, absolutely. Well, you take the IRS scandal thing that's been going on with Eric Holder. I mean, if that would have happened to any other administration, they would have had his head on a platter to come out and find that he okayed all of this with the IRS. And people just kind of sit back and took it, just so ho-hum. And I'm standing in my living room jumping up and down going, what are we doing about this? How can they blatantly come out and say, yeah, we did it, and basically there's nothing you can do about it?
Well, you know why there's nothing we can...
It's like, what are you going to do about it?
Well, I'll tell you why we can't do nothing about it, fellas, is because, every time I'm on your old show, I say the most controversial stuff, and then this show will replay for the next week, and I'll keep getting messages from people going, I heard you on Awakening Radio the night, and then all that will say is, wow. But
well, you know what?
That's what it's about.
We welcome controversy.
Absolutely.
Here's my controversy to you then, my friend.
Awakening Controversial Radio.
Well, that's good. You got to make people think, and if anger makes people think, so let's make them angry. Here's the thing, man. You've got a movement in this country. They have I don't know if you guys know this, but here a while back, the Democratic Party was a dying breed. A lot of people thought they were politically over. They lost the midterm elections.
Yep.
They were losing everything.
Yep.
A lot of people thought that after Bush, another Republican would be elected, and they really thought the Democrats were done. And the Democrats saw something, though. They saw the ability to promise to a group of people in this country, to a large portion of the people in this country, to create this us versus them within our own border.
Absolutely.
To everyone who's not got a huge education and makes a bunch of money, the reason you don't have that good education and the reason you don't make good money is because the guy down the road that makes good money took it from you.
Yeah.
So we must now attack him. So they've created this, and unfortunately, they haven't created any jobs either. So every day, more people are added to poverty list. And then who do most people in poverty vote for? They vote for the guy who's promising them the most. And you look at Mitt Romney, and Mitt Romney said, you know what? You have got to want to do this too.
Yeah.
You've got to get up and you got to meet us halfway. We'll try to get you a job. Take responsibility for yourself. Ronald Reagan done it better than anybody. He told the country, you have got to take responsibility for yourself.
A house divided cannot stand.
Exactly. And
Mr. Lincoln.
Yeah, and that was one of the best. That's one of the best quotes of all time, by the way.
Absolutely.
And Mr. Lincoln was also a Republican. And
yes.
But this whole the divisor of all this, and you've got all these people that they're growing the poverty group, which is growing their voter base. I'm really beginning to think they will never lose power now because they have got such a foothold in the Spanish voting, the Mexicans, and the poorer people, the more poor. And I mean, look at the black vote this year in the election. 99% of every black person that voted for Obama. Now, if 99% of every white person had voted for Romney, it would be the poop hitting the fan. People be wondering why. Did you only vote for Romney because, President Obama was African American? No. I mean, so nobody calls it like it is, and the way that it is it's going to be very hard to ever get control of the White House. So we're going to see a lot more of this, sliding, and they're going to tax the rich until there is no rich anymore. And then,
exactly.
Then where are they going to get their money, middle class? I'm telling you, they're coming for you.
Absolutely, they have to do away.
Well, it's going to be like the old England. They'll just, there won't be any more rich, and they'll tax the poor until, they die. It's pretty
well, I mean, you look at most third world countries. There is no middle class. It's rich and poor, right. And
exactly.
That's where we're headed. And I don't know about you guys, but when they tax, when they say the rich need to be taxed more, like it or not, the rich create more jobs than our government ever will.
Right.
I have never worked for a poor man. So basically, to me, when they're saying they have to pay more taxes, that's taking money out of somebody's pocket who could be working for 40 hours or getting a little overtime, and you have to have the will and the want to do that, because I'm running across more and more, especially younger people, 18, 19-year-old, just out of high school, and they're depending on someone else taking care of them, whether it be the government, their mom, their dad, their grandparents. They don't have that work ethic that, hey, I got to get up at 5 in the morning and go make this money so I can afford a car and a house and a family. And they played that during the elections, that, the government will take care of you. And that kind of makes me, that is what aggravates me, because that makes me think that I'm not smart enough to think for myself that the government has to do it for me and to take care of me. That's crap. You've got to want it. And no, I've got, some good advice for most 18, 19-year-olds. When you get your first job, you're going to make minimum wage. You're not starting at the top, and you're not making $25 an hour. It's not going to happen. You have to either work your way up or depend on an education to get you to where you want to be. You can't just walk out of your graduation at high school and think you're going to make $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year. It's not going to happen unless you are really fortunate.
Oh yeah,
and those are few and far between that get to walk into those good jobs like that.
Pause in the chat room pulled out a very good comment. I was actually going to hit on this.
Yeah, the Walmart thing.
I mean,
and Paul's is right.
Dude, it's all over the country. You can see it, and Republicans said it was going to happen. Economists said it was going to happen. Mitt Romney said it was going to happen, and they laughed him out. They made fun of him. Everybody said that when you put restrictions on corporations and say if you have this many employees or this many full-time employees, you got to pay into Obamacare. What are they going to do? They're going to, instead of having
part-time.
Exactly. Instead of having 20 full-time employees, they're going to have 60 part-time employees.
And it's not just Walmart. I deal on a daily basis with Home Depot, Lowe's, 84 Lumber, Carter Lumber, all these different lumber companies, and every single one of them are going back to part-time employees.
Yep. And the company that I work for, all of their employees are part-time. And they gave us they took our medical insurance last year away, and then when they reoffered it to us, they said, well, we're not going to give you company insurance this year. You get to go to a insurance clearinghouse where you can go pick whatever you want, but we're not going to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So figure that out.
Well, I mean, yeah, figure. Wow. I don't know, man. It's just you talk about some rabbit holes. You could go down rabbit holes all night long talking about this stuff with the government that we've got right now.
I think it was the free cell phones.
Well, free cell phones, I mean, that's the tip of the iceberg. I mean, free cell phones, the commercial always shows people at work, using, you can't work and get a damn free cell phone, people.
Bubba John down here on 3rd Street got to call baby mama on his free cell phone.
There's a whole lot of people must not be working on the day that they're giving them free cell phones out. Because I see them on the corners at like 10 in the morning lined around the block waiting on that cell phone.
Yeah, I mean, there's some people here in the chat room about, being trapped and what are we going to do and sending jobs overseas. We've done a lot. I mean, of capitalism, sending jobs overseas, free trade agreements, NAFTA, and we all
was the worst thing ever invented.
Well, yeah, we know the president went in, and I ain't gonna say no names. Thank you, Willie. But
thanks, Slick Willie.
The hole that we're dug into now, with all these scandals just coming to light, and they're still not having an effect. That pretty much tells everybody right now, it does not matter what happens. The administration that's in there right now, they could kill baby rabbits on live TV, and they would still hold the same because people just aren't going to vote out. When someone says, I will keep taking from the ones who have, and we all know, and I keep getting off track, but we all know what the original Communist Manifesto did. They got rid of the middle class, and they separated the people within their own country. The haves against the have-nots. Yeah, and they would always tell the have-nots, well, we're going to go after those rich guys because we're going to stick it to them, And were they really? No, they weren't. But they kept the have-nots riled up, thinking the government was on their side. You think George Soros is really serious when he says that, taxes have to be raised? I mean, and look at
minimum the devil.
Exactly. Look at minimum wage, guys. I mean, minimum wage was never designed to be a job you keep for the rest of your life, and there is people who do it, and I hate that for them. I wish everybody could get out there and get a little training and get out of that. That's made for young kids to get their feet wet or maybe somebody who's retired or something. But
it's becoming a point to where that's all that's here.
Well,
is your minimum wage jobs now?
Think about these
that's
guys.
Sad.
In our area.
In our area especially. But, let's break this down and look at let's break this down and just say it like it is. Let's look at Obama's the last year that he's and some of the rhetoric that he's been talking. Okay. He raised the payroll tax, which effectively raised taxes on anybody who works any job. It had nothing to do with sticking it to the rich.
That's right.
It had to do with anybody who draws a freaking paycheck. Now, then he turned around and he said, okay, we need to start looking into raising minimum wage. And everybody cheered him and said, that's right. You need to raise minimum wage to get
poor
people.
Never good.
It's not, and it doesn't get poor people out of poverty. It will never make a dent in getting poor people. You know what it does? It
makes it hard on us, the normal people.
Exactly. It sticks it to the small business owner who has got 13 employees that he's having to pay, and when you raise minimum wage, well, for instance, let's say you pay $7. What is minimum? $7.50 an hour.
I believe it is.
Okay, so you're at $7.50. Let's say you raise it to $9. That's $1.50. Well, let's make this easy because, boys, I'm tired. I've had a rough week. Let's say that you go from $7.50 and you raise it to $8.50. That's $1. Okay. Now, let's say that this guy, that's an extra $1 he has to pay all 10 employees. That's an extra $10 an hour coming out of his pocket. Okay. That's a whole full-time worker and a part-time worker that he can't hire now because minimum wage went up. Now, does that actually help anybody? No, but you know who it helps more than anybody? It helps Obama because it gives the government more taxes because guess what they did? They effectively stuck it to everybody. They raised your payroll tax 25% on everybody. Then if they raise the minimum wage tax, guess what they do? They get 25% of that minimum wage raise that's going to be given out.
And on top of that, statistically, every time the minimum wage raises, so does your gas, your groceries, your electric bill, your gas bill, everything goes up to compensate for that extra. So basically, you're not really making it. You're getting it just as fast as you're getting it.
It's a sneaky way. It's a sneaky way for the government to get more taxes. It's basically essentially raising taxes because they force. It's not the government raising what they have to pay us. They force small business owners to pay their employees more money, or corporations that pay minimum wage. I shouldn't say all small business, but most of them are small business. They force that group of people to pay a higher pay rate. At the same time, they raised the payroll tax, so therefore, basically, they just small business owners just funded the government to be able to start another frickin' useless program because they won't stop a damn program once they start it. They never say, wait a minute, maybe we screwed up here, fellas, and we should stop this because it ain't working.
Let's revamp the program before we stop it.
Yeah, redo it. Let's spend $10 million. Let's spend $10 million to redo this before we shut it down.
Then we got to get a committee together to see why it failed.
Oh yeah, the state of Kentucky, they are the world's best for doing that. I don't know.
I agree. I ain't gonna say much. I ain't gonna disagree with that. The state of Kentucky is, I don't know.
They're the most liberal handout state I've ever seen.
When I argue with people about, well, that's funny. I'm sitting here. The very first thing I see is a friend of mine says after Benghazi Gate, IRS Gate, Fast and Furious Gate, the Associated Press Gate, the monitoring mining your telephone Gate, breaking into media's computer Gate, going after Christianity Gate, going after the Judaism Gate, after the national debt almost quadrupling, losing 25 million jobs, ruining our health care, anyone who still supports this cancer of a president, it's like, wow, when you put it like that, holy cow.
That kind of sums it up right there.
Doesn't it?
How did he get elected the second time?
Dude, they were brilliant. They isolated each voter group in the United States. They said, okay, what means the most to women? And they said, well, personal choice. So let's create a fake war against women. Let's go out here and spin the propaganda machine saying that Republicans are going to take rights away from women. And then they said, okay, we got to say that Republicans hate black people. They hate African Americans. Okay, then we got to say Republicans hate gay people, and we got to say that we're for gays. They effectively, he is a community organizer, and I don't know if you guys have ever looked up what a community organizer's job is, but it's essentially to bitch and bitch and bitch until you get a small group of people in a community a perk from the richer people in the community. And you create that us versus them attitude within the community itself. He is fantastic at doing that on a large scale. He was effectively able to keep all those groups of people from giving a hairy rat's ass about what the other group of people was getting. They only cared about what they got.
It's all spin.
Oh well, I mean, when the election was going on, you seen the spin that they put on the the Mexicans coming across the border. They said, "Well, we've got these groups down there out of Texas and Arizona that are shooting at these poor defenseless immigrants coming across the border up here to get work," which was totally untrue.
Yep.
And they spun that into such a media frenzy that Fox News just run off with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I seen a headline yesterday that I was just kind of flipping through the news channels, and I just caught the tail end of it. But at the bottom of the headline was, "New bill makes it illegal to be an illegal immigrant in the United States," and I about fell out of the chair.
I seen that last weekend. It made it against the law to be an illegal immigrant.
Yeah.
Now, if it's already illegal, how can it be against the law?
That's the kind of government we're dealing with.
Did you guys know that it's illegal to shoot someone with a gun? But yet we've added about 26 laws since we originally said it was illegal to shoot anybody with a gun. So every time someone shoots someone with a gun, they're breaking the law. But we keep making it to where they break even more laws, not ever realizing that it isn't going to stop people from shooting people.
Well, I mean, if they would enforce the laws that are already on the books,
well, that doesn't.
That'd be awesome.
That doesn't stand for Dick Cheney, though.
Yeah, you're
Cheney,
right, man.
Cheney just said, "Oops,
Sorry, man. Let me pick your face up for you."
I didn't see you standing there."
Ain't that something? But
Well, at least it was 8 shot.
yeah, you're right. Well, man, what I tell everybody is I do wholeheartedly believe that that there is a new world order. There is someone bigger than the President of the United States that pulls the big strings. I think the presidents do have a little leeway to put a little bit of their own spin onto things. I believe that Republicans are just as guilty as Democrats. The reason I choose to align myself with the Republicans is it's the lesser of the two evils in my eyes. But that's just me.
My advice would be, anytime you hear the words George Soros, pay attention, because that man has nothing but bad for this country.
Well, yeah,
he the devil.
Well, I didn't know this was kind of funny. Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. I got a email here earlier. Let's see here. This was on InfoWars that Bill Ayers says Obama is a terrorist. Well, that's pretty funny coming from the guy who ran for Weather Underground and raised him.
Yeah.
It's like, really?
Disassociating for some reason.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's kind of scary, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
That a known terrorist would disassociate himself from the President of the United States after basically he gave him his political start.
That's like Jeremiah Wright saying he's the Antichrist.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
I still think the Illuminati has a lot to do with it. The Illuminati with the UN.
Well, I mean, when you got somebody, I think it's a conglomerate of, I don't know how many or who, but who really makes the decisions of where to take this country in a direction that they want it to go. And I agree that the president has actually very little say in, anything. He's just, they kind of go, it goes downhill. This is how we need it to go. You need to go, and start pushing it this way.
Well, do you think the president's just the front man?
Oh yeah.
I think that I think the president is he's a puppet, so to speak. But I do think, though, I think social issues and things like that, I think they have a little bit of a leeway there. I just think financially, economically, globally, if you see us partnering up with someone that we hadn't partnered up with before, then you better believe that it's a higher power causing that partner up. I mean, we're partnering up with people now, guys, that there is no reason that we should be in bed with Syria. There's no reason that we should be in bed with half of the countries that we're in bed with.
We are arming Taliban. I'm just saying, it's a personal opinion, but somewhere, even though we are fighting, the war on terror, somewhere there's backdoor deals being made. I think that was part of Benghazi, and I think that's why it went down the way it did. But somewhere, to overthrow what government or whatever, but we're going, eventually we're going to find out, maybe 5 years, 10 years down the road, that we were arming terrorists.
We've already found that out.
Yeah.
We armed all kinds of people in Mexico with the Fast and Furious.
Oh yeah, and that's a whole show in itself right there.
Yeah.
When they're finding guns that was in the Fast and Furious and killing our own border agents with them.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yep.
And then they try to keep it under the rug. Oh no, that didn't happen. That wasn't. Oh well, maybe it was us. Maybe it was one of those guns. Come on.
Yep.
Well, I know that I'm reading here out in the chat room, Junebug, he said that he heard from an insider of the Illuminati that they're actually pretty upset with Obama because he's not holding up his end of the bargain. And that comes from Junebug, which, very well could be true.
I think that's
he may end up like Kennedy.
I think that's.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
The NSA's listening.
No. I'm not saying me. I'm just saying, how that all went down.
Yeah, I think that's a plant. I think that's a spin doctor that they planted to go on shows and say, Obama's really sticking it to the, he's really sticking it to the Illuminati. He won't do what they want. When, I mean, it's pretty clear, man, that
misinformation.
It's pretty clear that we're building, massive underground cities for a reason, and I agree with Jesse Ventura. I think that reason is that they are going to cause a catastrophic breakdown of society between the have-nots and the haves.
Well, that's a perfect reason for having all those internment camps that are being built in the country with all the military equipment that's being amassed.
Well, it's not hard to do. I mean, how many families, middle-class families, who have 2.5 children or however they figure it up, you raise their milk to $6 or $7 or $8 a gallon. You raise your gas up to $5 a gallon. How fast does your middle class go away?
Yeah.
Price them out of their class, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, look what they've done to us on gas anyway. And that's another thing. I know you guys' show's about ready to run out of time, but it's funny when you look back. You look back at what the left side of the government was screaming when gas was high under Bush. Oh, it's because Bush is in bed with the oil. He's in bed with big oil. And actually Obama said, these gas prices, I'll fix this. This is crazy. They shouldn't be this way. He's in bed with big oil. And then look at gas now. It's higher. So,
well, I mean, you look at Marathon Oil. They recorded record high profits for last year, although gas keeps going up. American Electric Power, which is the flipping evil empire, I hate that company with a passion, recorded record high profits for last year, but yet proposes a 17% rate increase to the Utilities Commission. That's garbage, so, I went from a $125 electric bill a month to a $400 electric bill a month, which is absolutely outrageous.
That's normal for me. Yeah.
I know that's normal for you, but
yeah. It's ridiculous, but it's normal.
All right, guys, we've got to the end of the show. Chad, I thank you for coming on tonight.
Absolutely, man.
Hey, it was fun, guys. I appreciate you letting me come on.
When I was thinking about the topic tonight, I thought, Chad was going to jump all over this. I just know him, and he's going to eat this up. So,
well,
it was fun.
If you hadn't have let me come on, I'd have just been sending you messages in the green room saying, "Here's what I think. Here's what I think."
I guarantee it. Everybody out there in radio and internet world, thanks for listening tonight. Don't forget, everybody, I want to announce this now, the 4th of July show. Everybody wants to be here for that. We've got a special guest coming on 4th of July night. We're going to be talking about demons, exorcisms, and ghostly encounters. So everybody come on in for the 4th of July show. And don't forget us on Awakening Radio. Everybody, thanks for coming and listening. And we'll see everybody next Thursday night.
Awakening Radio is complete. Join Joe and Tracy next Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, for another live episode only on ParamaniaRadio.com.